Bonjour, Anin, Memangawa Ikwe, Butterfly Woman, Amber Lund from Turtle Mountain, but I live in Moorhead, Minnesota. I'm a peer support at the F5 Project. I am a sibling of 12. I'm from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I have 5 children, ages 17 to 9, 4 boys, 1 girl. I grew up in Callaway, Minnesota, with my dad and my stepmom. My mom and dad are both addicts. I come from a family of all addicts. Everybody in my family uses. There's a couple people who don't. Not very many, but there are a couple. And that played a big effect on my life due to all the abuse that happened to me when I was a child. I've been sexually abused, mentally abused, physically abused, spiritually abused, all the abuses. And from all of the traumatic things that happened to me when I was a child set the pace for me trying to mask all of my feelings as an adolescent. Very first memory in my life is when I was 5 years old. I got kidnapped by the neighbor lady. And my mom, me and my baby brother both got kidnapped, and my mom came to save us. And she kicked the door in, and the neighbor lady bit her finger off. In that time in my life, there wasn't a lot of supervision, and me and my brother were going back and forth between my mom and dad. My brother ended up walking through hot fire when he was 3 years old and burned all the way up to his kneecaps. I used to walk around town at 5 all by myself and go to church, and I'd come back with little leggings and a crooked ponytail and I have church papers, Mom. And people at the grocery store were like, "Hi, Amber." My mom would be like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a lady from church." So my whole life I've been a social butterfly, which has sometimes gotten me into a lot of trouble and in a lot of situations that weren't so healthy for me. But always looking for love in the people around me has been a big part of my life. Later on down the road, my mom ended up going to prison, and we lived with my dad and my stepmom. And that was a hard time. My dad is an alcoholic and a drug addict, and he was a big member of the church. And so the stuff that was going on at home, the different abuses from my dad, were causing chaos in my life because my dad was a deacon of a church. And so I had this hatred towards, I wouldn't say God, but whatever the church represented. And so it just didn't seem believable that everybody in that church was perfect, and we weren't, but we were perfect at church. And so my stepmom was very simple, I would say, in the fact that we lived in a hoarding household, and she always would play games with us, make treasure hunts and stuff, and then my dad would come home and she'd be like, "I've been telling these kids all day to clean the house." And that was never a thing. She was real lazy and joined in on not cleaning the house, and then me and my brother would get in trouble for that. My brother always got in way more trouble than me. My dad was very, very mean to him. And I was on the opposite end where my dad was way, way too nice. And so that was a survival time in mine and Caleb's life. When we got a little bit older, we went to my mom's, and my mom was in a active addiction, and she was living with her boyfriend. I was 11 and I started using. My parents were dealing drugs, and it was real easy just to slide into that life because it was all around us. My sisters, my brother, me, everybody was all involved. At 11, I started smoking meth, drinking, using Adderall, smoking weed. I lost my virginity at 11 to a 20-year-old Mexican. Caleb, my brother, I took him everywhere with me, which probably wasn't a good thing, but we were always together, and I was just trying to take care of him and doing the best that I could. Didn't work out so well. He ended up getting in a lot of trouble and getting locked up. At that time, I dropped out of the 8th grade to be a drug dealer, and me and my siblings were just running in straight chaos all the time. I talked to my friend's mom one night when I was drinking, and I had told her about the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, that I was dealing drugs and I wasn't going to school. And she brought me to the police station, and they took me into foster care. In my first foster home, the lady was crazy and beat her own kids, so I just ran away from there. And this weird social worker used to come pick me up from Dilworth every day and drive me to Detroit Lake School. I didn't understand that either. And they took away my brother, my dad, my mom. They had no contact with anybody in my family because it was like a safety issue. And then I was mad because I was like, why did I tell the truth? I should have never told the truth. Because now I'm the one that's punished. I'm the one that's taken away. It didn't make any sense to me. That made it worse. But then a week later, they moved me to a different foster home with Marlis and Doug Olson, my mom and dad for life, forever and ever. Was crazy because the first night that I got there, I was crying and upset, and Marlis took me to Walmart at like 3 o'clock in the morning. This was pre-COVID. Marlis took me to Walmart at 3 o'clock in the morning and bought me like worth of stuff because I didn't have anything. I didn't have no clothes, no nothing. She bought me all my makeup, everything. And because I'm a victim of molestation, my foster dad put a deadbolt on the inside of my door and told me that like they'll ever come in my room unless I want them to. And they provided a safe space, had consequences and rewards. I started going to school again. I was still using because I got to go with my sister on the weekends, and I would just get drugs for the week. And I really gravitate towards people who are using. So my best friend, Missy, in school, like dad would allow us to drink and do all the things. My parents were pretty strict. People would come over, you have to sit on the couch and watch movies, or like you can't go in the bedroom, or yeah, it was crazy. It was a whole different life. They were too, I don't want to say that word, off people. So their life was normal. We went to church. My mom was a para at the school for handicapped kids. My dad worked at Subaru. When I got to high school, I joined the cheerleading squad. I was captain of the cheerleading squad. I got straight A's. I was doing all the right things in life, and then I got a boyfriend who was the all-star of the basketball team, and I was obsessed with him. That like no longer was important. It was very important. I ended up getting pregnant at 14. Had a miscarriage, and then he ended up going to jail or getting locked up somewhere. And then I fell in love with my first kid's dad in Holly on a weekend visit with my sister. And after like him, I ended up getting pregnant, and I was already 2 years behind in school at this later on time because of dropping out in the 8th grade. So I was pregnant in the 10th grade with Aiden. And me and his dad decided to move in together, and I transferred schools up to Moorhead to go to the Alternative Learning Center. And then I was 18. Aiden was 18 months old when I graduated from high school, and I was pregnant with Addison. But I did graduate at 20 years old. That and I weren't getting along so well. Ended up breaking up, and I moved in with my mom into a trailer house in Glendon, and my mom helped me take care of my kids and helped me. I was working at Churches United Homeless Shelter. I was volunteering, feeding the homeless people. And then a little bit after that, like ended up my kids' dad, my first love, got back out of prison, and I ended up getting pregnant with our third child, or my third child, not ours, because I have 5 baby daddies. They all have different dads. Then me and him got back together, and he was really institutionalized and prison bound and not doing so well, but the chaos of us using together and drinking, and mom enabling me by staying home, and I would just pay her with drugs and she would take care of my kids, caused a lot of, and I got real mean, and no man was ever going to hurt me, and it was all this and all that, and I used my beauty to manipulate people and get whatever I wanted from whomever I wanted, however I wanted it. Then, so along came my next kid's dad, and he was like Prince Charming, so sweet. I really abused him. I used to beat him up all the time, and I was like, ain't no man ever gonna hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you first. And we had Noxie. Right after we had Knox, I met my fifth baby daddy and got pregnant with Tatum. And he came along and he had 3 other kids, so we collectively had 8 kids together, or 8 kids, and then we had our baby, so we had 9. That was crazy. Both running the streets, doing whatever we wanted. A lot of like cheating, lying, manipulating going on. I became a gambling addict, living at the casino, never coming home. Like mama would be like, now Amber Alerts on Facebook, like one's looking for me. I would say I was leaving for a gallon of milk and I wouldn't come back for 2 weeks. My mom was solely responsible for taking care of my kids, which enabled me to use more and more and more. Running drugs with everybody in my family, cousins, my brother, everybody. It's like this family affair. Now, like, and my brother are both clean and sober. He has a beautiful wife with 4 beautiful children, and he just graduated college, and he's doing all these great things. I'm super proud of him for that. That's like crazy. I don't know. It's just a beautiful thing to watch your baby grow up and be magnificent, right? When my brother was in prison this last time, he was like, Amber, we can't keep doing this. You can't keep going back. And I was like, yeah, I know, because in 7/17, social services came and took my kids away from me. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I was panicked out and trying to make anybody and everybody take them, and nobody was sober to take them. Not one person in my life was clean to take them. And that was a big realization, right, at the time, like no support, no nothing. I went to treatment and I did all the things and I got out, and luckily my brother's wife right now, she was my best friend, and her mom took me in graduating intensity, medium intensity, and low intensity. And I came home to her house and she let me do supervised visits with my kids. Christmas, she showed me like a routine was, how to give my kids baths, how to make pot pie, that I didn't know how to do. My mom, love her very much, but she enables me. To this day, she still comes over and cleans my house and does my laundry. But it's just like I never had skills, I guess. You'd always pay somebody a $20 bag to do your laundry, wash your dishes, watch your kids, do whatever, like their currency. Just super enabled I am. I'm an adult child, but after I got home from treatment, I got an apartment. I started getting day visits, night visits, weekend visits. I got my kids back December 18th, 2018. My kid went to bed, and social services closed the case. My kids went to bed, and I got high. I was like, yes, nobody's watching. Fuck yeah. My kids back. This is what I wanted. And it was weird because in treatment, I was like, my life has changed. I'm so right. Not quite. And so I was using for like 4 months. And our social worker, Nicole, like still call randomly to check in. She like, Amber, are you okay? Like, I've heard from you. And we were like texting a lot, because it's helping me with all kinds of life stuff. And I texted her and I'm like, Nicole, I'm high, but don't come take my kids. I'm like, after treatment, I'll figure it out. So I went back, did a little 30-day recap. And she came up to the treatment center and she was like, how about this? How about we move you to Moorhead different scenery, because I'm from Detroit Lake, so like every time I go back, it's like, oh, it's everybody wants something, everybody knows that I deal drugs, everybody's like, can I get a bag, can I get this, can I get that? And it doesn't help your recovery for everybody to think you're the person that can get the drugs. So she got me a special circumstances voucher and a place to live in Moorhead. She helped me sign up for college. I started working a construction management degree. Mike were with my sister at my house, and then they moved me straight from treatment into my home with my kids. And life was good for a while, and then my kids' dad got out of prison, moved in. We were like readjusting life, and then he started working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I had all my kids plus his kids, and he was never home. I was going to school. I didn't have a car. We rode the MAT bus everywhere. Tatum was in preschool. I would ride the bus to the preschool, then to the elementary to drop the other kids off. Then I would go to college, and then I would leave college, ride the bus to go get Tatum from preschool, drop him back off at my house with my mom, and then ride the bus back to school, go back to another class for me, and then ride the bus again to go get the kids from the elementary school, drop them off with my mom, go back to school, and then go to outpatient treatment. And I was taking all of my kids to all their appointments, all the things, and life was like real lot. I was walking a mile from the last bus stop to outpatient treatment and back, going to meetings, and then coming home to go to bed to wake up the next morning to do it all over again. And I thought that I was doing great, but I wasn't really like taking care of myself or doing the things that I needed to do for my recovery. And Matt was home one time, and he made all the money, and I did all the life stuff. And he came home, and I said I was going to the library to do homework, and I went to the bar, had one drink, sat at a gambling machine to gamble, ended up gambling like $200 away, and I was in a panic because he was going to know. And the lady sitting next to me was like, all out, like slapping a sheen. And I was like, you got some drugs? And she was like, yeah, you got money? I was like, yep. And 5 minutes later, I was in the bathroom fucking smoking a pizzle. And it was crazy how quick it happened. And once I use one time, I don't quit. I either have to go to treatment or somebody's got to stop me. I can't. It's not like you get to get high one time. So then I was sneaking around getting high. I was taking the dog for walks at 4:30 in the morning. I was hiding in the garage, and Matt kept asking me, are you high? I'm like, why do you keep accusing me of getting high? So for months, I'm like lying to him and living in this chaos of like trying to hide my drug addiction. And I set the roll of garbage down on top of his laundry basket. And he packed all of his stuff and he left because he thought that I was like done. I put the bag of garbage bags on his laundry basket. So he packed up all his stuff and all my son's stuff, and they left. And at that, I tried to kill myself, and I was on a back road, got high, went out on a back road, lay down on the railroad tracks with Beats headphones on, and one of my friends ended up finding me on the railroad tracks and pulled me off. And I woke up on her couch like 2 days later, and I had peed my pants, and I didn't know where I was, and she was like, you're either going to treatment or Prairie, pick one. And I was like, I'll go to treatment. We call the treatment center, and they do my assessment, and they had a bed open that day, so I didn't get to go back. I didn't get to like say get my drugs or whatever, like the split drug addicts have where you have to get high one last time. That didn't get to happen for me. And so I went to treatment for 5 days. And I told them, I'm like, look, I just need to be able to wake up in the morning and not want to get high. I can do this. I know I can. And so I did 5 inpatient, and then I started outpatient treatment 3 times a week. And I was going to meetings and doing all the things. I got my tax return, got a car, started other people to meetings, doing all the things. I ended up getting expelled from school because when I got high, the last rape I got clean, I ended up spending my whole FAFSA, whatever school loans, on drugs instead of school, and never attended school. So they expelled me because you can't do that. Apparently it's against the rules. Yeah. I ended up doing all these good things, right? And I was like, peer people with no peer support job, but I was giving people rides to meetings. I was doing all these things, and I was obsessed with like helping and going to meetings. I was going to 7 meetings a week, sometimes 14. I did 114 meetings in 90 days. And I really started to love life in recovery and love life in Narcotics Anonymous and love the fellowship and love all the people involved. And after about a year of like working on my recovery and myself, everybody was like, why don't you become a peer support? I'm like, I don't even know what a peer support is, right? And then my friend Manny sent me a link to my Facebook, and it was like, become a peer support, ND behavioral health, da, da, da. And it was like all these things. And then me and Brennan were going to a NA convention in Omaha, and he had his computer on his lap, and he's like, let's just sign up. And he's like asking all the questions, and we fill it out. And it was like, bing, he sent it off, and then it was like, ding, ding, both of us got accepted. And then we went to the training. There were a lady from Community Uplift there, and she was like, yeah, I love everything about you, da, da, da. Later on down the road, after I had the peer support certification, I messaged her, and she was like, yeah, an opening, perfect. So I went to work at Community Uplift for about a year, and my mom had a heart attack. And then because my mom had a heart attack, I was like, if you're asking me to choose between work or my mom, I'm choosing my mom. And so I got let go of that job. And a couple, I would say 3 weeks later, Scott College called me from F5 and was like, I really like you to come in for an interview. Kathy Benjamin took it upon herself to fill out my resume and submit it for peer support. And so I came in for the interview, and I think I even like said out-of-pocket things, and he was like, yeah, you're a perfect fit. Like Adam says, you have to have a fucking awesome story to work at F5. But got the job here, and ever since I've worked here, like, this makes me passionate about what I do. It makes me love people right where they're at, you know, homeless, and showing up for people and going into trap houses and saving people and helping them get into treatment, and you know, that are fighting me, telling me, leave me alone, I don't want anything to do with you, and I keep coming back. I'm like, bro, I'm an invasive species. I'm Amber fucking Lund. Like, there's nothing that you can do to press me back that's going to make me not love you. Working with people here at F5, I have noticed that there's so much healing going on inside of me, because people are like, you don't understand. And I'm like, yes, I do. I'm a survivor of all the abuses. You know, my kids, I've got them back. I've been away from my children on holidays. I've done all the things, you know, meet me up. My has abused me in ways that are like unspeakable. And so all of those different things make me relatable. And I firmly believe that if I can tell the truth about what I've been through, that causes connections, and through those connections causes love, and through love causes recovery. And that is the sole purpose of my life. You know, I'm a member of the Way Church, and I just went to church working on like doing things at Sweat Lodge, and Amanda is the minister at my church, and she got me into this theological education for Indigenous leaders. And now I'm in school to become a preacher, and I don't know how that happened, but God opens doors and I walk through them. And a beautiful thing, because my mom is a boarding school survivor, and the churches did a lot of bad things to Native American people, and so it puts a bad taste whenever, you know, in church together. And I have a beautiful mix of it in my life, and I don't really care who or what people believe in, as long as they're believing. I don't care who or what people are praying to, as long as they're praying. So I would tell an addict to don't give up, and know that there's purpose in your pain, and that everybody needs somebody sometimes, and I prefer to be that somebody. And so there's no judgment on my end. Come see me.